Hi, welcome to Build a Quilt and our video, The Split Rail, a very useful segment piece in quilting because it can be used as you see the split rail or even as a single rectangle, which makes it really popular when you're putting a quilt together. Let's go ahead and take a look at how it's made now.
Okay, we're back at our machine and now we're going to create our split rail segment block. This one is so simple, but there's something a little special about this one because you can use it two different ways. So again, I've prepped my fabric, a lighter and a darker. I've got my stabilizer in and I'm already here at my machine. I've got my pattern up. And the very first thing that my instructions say is stitch machine step 1 directly onto the stabilizer. So let's do that. Now, the fun thing about this particular block is you can make a single rail or a split rail, which is 2. And we'll talk about that because you'll see that our outline here that we're stitching onto our stabilizer is just one rectangle. So if all I need is one rectangle, then I'm good. And I'll tell you when you would stop in the pattern. Now for step 2, it says place fabric A on top of space 1, stitch machine step 2, and trim roughly a 1/4 inch along the bottom edge. So let's do that. I'm going to place a little bit of my glue stick here in the center just to hold my fabric down. And I'm going to start with my lighter fabric. And I just lay it across there. And you can feel your stitching and you can see it a little bit if you use a lighter fabric so that you know that the way you've placed it, you have at least a 1/4 inch on each side. You should end up with roughly 1/2 inch on each side, so you have plenty for trimming. Now we're going to do machine step 2, and that is to stitch this down or tack it down. Now, if you only want a single rail or a single rectangle, at the end of this step, just stop, remove it from the machine, and trim it all the way around, and you'll have a rectangular piece, which is 2.5 by 5 inch finished. Okay. Okay, so let's take this out really quickly. So if I just wanted a single, I'm done now. I just take this out and I would do my trimming around the edge. However, a split rail is 2, and that's what we're going to do next. So our instructions tell us to trim along the bottom edge, not the sides or the top, because we'll trim those later. But we're going to add a second piece here, which is going to lay here and flip. So we need to trim right there. And I'm going to lay this down on my tabletop, bring my camera down so you can see that. There we go. And again, I'm just kind of giving it a little bit of an eye to roughly be at a 1/4 inch. There we go. Once you've gotten that down, it's pretty easy. And these Karen K. Buckley scissors that I use make it super easy because it just slides through it like butter. So here, I've trimmed that. I'm ready. Now I'm going to place this back into my machine. Let's bring our camera back up. There we go. Now our next step says place a B fabric number 2 rectangle right side down on top of fabric A as seen in the diagram and stitch machine step 3. So I've got this turned over so the right side is on top there, so it's face down. And now machine step 3 is going to tack that down, tack it together. Now, with some systems, they would have given you this box down here that was stitched onto your stabilizer as well as your overall guide for the split rail. But I didn't do that because I wanted you to have the option of doing a single or a split rail. and you really don't need it. It's extra thread there that you really don't need to worry about. So even though I don't have a box here to look at, I know that if I just put a little bit of glue right there in the center, that's going to be plenty, and that's all I need. Okay, so that's down. I press that with my fingers, or again, I could press it with my seam roller. Now, the next step, it says to flip fabric B into space 2, which is what we've done. Stitch machine step 4, and that's exactly where we are in the pattern. And we're going to stitch that down. And again, I just kind of, even though I've glued it, I just kind of like leave my hand there. But you can see I've backed away from it. I don't need to do that. And you don't ever want to put your fingers or your hand close to the needle and the mechanism. Okay, and then it says stitch machine step 5. That's your final guideline box. But just like we did with the flying geese unit in the last demonstration, we have a couple of connection points here, and I wish to put a little bit of tape there to hold them in place so that I don't have to worry about my machine foot snagging this fabric and flipping it up and causing a problem. There's nothing more irksome than when that happens, and you have to take everything apart, and you might have not had enough fabric, and then you're in trouble, and can be a real pain. So a little bit of embroidery tape helps really nicely. Now we will do step 5, which is the last step for the split rail. See how easy the split rail is? And the split rail, like the half square triangle, is really nice because half of it is one color, half of it is another. And so you can guide where your color changes are in your quilt by using something like a split rail to divide out your color. And that same thing happens except on the diagonal with your half square triangle. So this and the half square triangle, very, very useful blocks. And I love that I have the ability just to make a rectangle, and I can use any, if I'm making a single rectangle, I can use any color that I need to. So we're done now with our split rail. Again, we'll remove our tape.
We hope you enjoyed that video, and here are a couple of more that we chose just for you. Until next time, quilt life beautiful.